Welcome to Trinity Wesleyan Church Online. We are so glad to have you here today. We've been praying for you, and we're excited for what God is going to be speaking to you today. It's almost 1 year ago today, we moved from Indiana to Delaware. We moved from Greenfield, Indiana to Dover, Delaware. And we had a U-Haul caravan. Me and my dad drove in our 26-foot U-Haul truck with a car on a trailer behind that. And then Jen and the girls were in the SUV driving behind us. And when we moved into the parsonage in Denton, not the one here in Dover as it was being renovated. And so we only unpacked the essentials. We only unpacked what we needed. It was just a stopping point. We were there for about 11 weeks, and we were there from about March 23rd until June 1st. And while the parsonage was being remodeled. So we boxed back up the essentials that we had out and living in Denton, and we loaded the U-Haul back up, and we arrived in Dover in the parsonage. Jen unpacked the house, and I started work on our rental property in Smyrna. And then we had the 4th of July parade. We gave out candy. We gave joy to people. We went and gave out free water at the Peach Festival. We had a block party. We had the trunk or treat, and we had so many people there. We remodeled the annex. We had a Christmas party. We had Christmas Eve. We unleashed hope by paying for car repairs at Scotty Muffler. And then we remodeled the kitchen annex just days ago. It was finished. There's still some boxes at home we have not unpacked. We haven't hung all of our pictures. We've started to go back through the house. We started to finish unpacking the boxes we hadn't gotten to yet. And we started to put pictures back up that we hadn't put up yet. And sometimes opening boxes, you're looking back and you're like, why did I bring this in the first place? And sometimes you're like, why did I pack it this way? This is a dumb way to pack it. And sometimes you see a box, it's just a box of desperation. It's a box of random stuff. You're just like, I don't care what it is, just throw it in. I'm sick of packing. I just throw it in. There's towels mixed with dry food, mixed with pants, and there's just anything you can think of, random cords, and you're just like, just put it in. I don't care. Get it in the truck. So as we've gone through the garage, I started cleaning out our garage. I've seen some laziness along the way. I've seen some laziness where maybe I finished a project and then I didn't put the tools away. Or I finished a project and didn't throw away the trash. Or I finished a project and didn't sweep up after myself. Sometimes there was like a box of trash that I had good intentions of putting in the trash can, which is about 10 feet away from the garage. I had good intentions and I just left it there and I boxed it up or I bagged it up and just totally forgot what it was and thought I needed to unpack it. Why didn't I just take those 10 seconds to just finish it right in the first place? Sometimes we come back to put away things and you're like, why did I put this here? Why would the utensils be in this drawer, not this drawer? Why would the soap be over here? Why would our winter clothes be here? It would make way more sense if I put it right here. It would make more sense to me if we did this here. And after moving across the country a couple times, being a pastor's kid and being a pastor now, I know that there are some boxes that will never, ever, ever get unpacked. They never get unpacked. And we leave them because we didn't want to get into it. We didn't want to figure out what to do with them. We didn't want to think about it because it was too difficult to unpack, and it was easier to just leave that in the box. I have a box of things or knickknacks from childhood that I don't really look at, but I bring it from house to house to house. And I don't want to get rid of them because I love them, but I have them still. It just gets moved from house to house and becomes the box that is never opened. The tape is never pulled off. It's never cut open. And I know what's in this box. I know that there's a little stuffed lobster that my brother got me when he went on a whale watching tour in Boston for a school trip. I know that there's a 6th grade yearbook where I circled girls that I liked. I know that there's a Dutch coin from the 1700s that I bought when I went to Boston. I know that there's a Beanie Baby named Hope. I know there's a whale, a stuffed whale when I went whale watching. I don't have to look in there. I know exactly what's in there. I know exactly what's in there. I just don't want to do anything about it. I don't look at it. And it's the sisterhood of the traveling box. Today, we're starting a new series called Spring Cleaning. And we're opening those boxes that make every move with us. Those boxes that we don't want to open. The boxes that we can't deal with right now. And we're going to take the time and we're going to open them. We're going to sort what we need to keep, what we need to get rid of, what needs to be taken out to the trash, what needs to be burned. But your spiritual life is impacted by what you carry along with you. Those boxes we carry don't have to be held in that dark basement or that dark back room where there's cobwebs, there's dust, there's dirt, there's things all over it. And you know what's in there, you just don't want to deal with it. I don't go through the boxes in the basement. When I go through a box, I take something from the basement and I don't go through boxes in a closet because there's not enough room. But I bring them from where they were in the dark and I bring them to the living room. I turn all the lights on where I can spread out, where I can analyze, assess what I need to do. Church is that bright living room. Fellowship with other believers is that bright living room. Christ is that deciding factor, the decision maker. What needs to stay? What needs to be thrown away? What needs to be given away? And that living room, the church, is a safe space to question, to doubt, to understand without judgment. So this series, Spring Cleaning, is a place where we can take these boxes that we've put away in these dark, dirty places, and we can take them and we can deal with them properly. Then we can live a healthier, cleaner, spiritual life. We can clean out these spaces in our spiritual house so the whole house grows together. And when our house grows cleaner and healthier, our neighborhood is going to grow cleaner and healthier. When we feel like we are unclean and we can't be used because I have those things that I've put away in that dark place that I don't want anybody to touch or anybody to see, but God wants to take those boxes that have been held up by us and we're holding them almost at gunpoint, like don't touch this box, and give them to Jesus where he can turn it for his glory. A couple nights ago, I had a dream and I felt like God was telling me to run wild and run free. You can't run wild, you can't run free when you're carrying boxes with you. You kind of look dumb if you're just carrying a bunch of boxes like, you can't run wild. And you can't run free holding a lot of stuff. And today, what I want you to do is we're going to start with the first box. And imagine a box with the word restlessness on it. And we have this box, restlessness. We have this box, restlessness. Restlessness is in that dark corner. Restlessness is put in that dusty closet. Restlessness is something that we don't want to deal with. And restlessness can no longer live in our house because we're taking it and we're bringing it to the light. It can no longer live in God's people because God doesn't call us to live restless, but to have a life of peace. It can no longer be something that holds us back. Restlessness causes us to trust in ourselves. It causes us to trust in our own resources, which are limited, by the way. And it turns us away from God and causes us to strive, to run, holding all these things, running around like a chicken with your head cut off. And that's no way for a person to live. You're not meant to tire yourself out. You are meant for margin. You are meant to live with peace. Here's my schedule for this week. See if this sounds fun. Here's my schedule for this week. Tomorrow is my day off. It's Monday. I take Mondays off. Ava has a doctor's appointment at 9:15, and we're going to catch up on some cleaning at home, relax maybe for an hour or so. Then I have to get some lab work done for my checkup. For my doctor appointment, that's at 3 p.m. Then I'm going to eat dinner. Ellie's dance class is at 5:45. I'll get home about 7 o'clock. Tuesday, I have a meeting at Calvary in Harrington from 9 a.m. till about 11 a.m. Then I come back home. I eat lunch. I'll work on my sermon. I'll leave for counseling in Seaford at 4 p.m. And everybody should go to counseling. This is just a side note. Everyone should go to counseling. Whether you have it all together, whether you don't. There are things that you've been through that you didn't even know were a problem. Even if you don't think there's a problem, go to counseling. It's a great thing for every single person to go through. I'm going through counseling not because I have any issues right now, but because I want to be healthier mentally. So I go to counseling. I'll get home about 6:30 p.m. Then bedtime for the girls is at 7:30 p.m. So I'm going to see the girls for about an hour that day. Wednesday, I have a meeting with Pastor Caleb at 8:30 a.m. He comes to the church. And then I'm going to finish up my sermon by 12 p.m. Then I have to write an assimilation process for new guests, make pro-presenter slides, eat dinner at 5 p.m., take Ellie to dance class at 5:45. This one's a longer one, so we won't get home until 7:30 p.m. She'll have to wind down for a little bit, then go to bed about 8. Thursday, I have discipleship with Ivan at 10 a.m. I'm going to meet with a pastor from a Dover area church in the afternoon, catch up on anything that's left over after that, record my sermon for YouTube at 5:30. Then I do the childcare for the ladies that do worship at 6:30 p.m. till about 7:30 or 8. Girls go to bed. I crash. Friday, I edit the video for YouTube. I upload the video to YouTube. I set the premiere time for airing, the schedule for airing on YouTube. Then I'm going to work on summer outreach ideas. Saturday sometimes just becomes we're finishing up church stuff. And it's sometimes just helping with housework, doing laundry, cleaning, whatever needs done. Sunday, a lot of people think it's a Sabbath day, but for pastors, it is a work day, one of the biggest work days. So I arrive at the church about 7 a.m., drive-in service 8:15. I have a financial meeting between services, 10:30 a.m. service in person. Then I go get lunch, crash, and nap in the afternoon. Doesn't that sound fun? I'm not asking you to feel bad for me. And a lot of these things I could do differently, but I've put so much into my schedule that I don't have time for rest. I don't have time for relaxation. And this isn't even adding in having my kids' schedule. This isn't adding in working out. This isn't adding in a kid's schedule where they might do some things in the future, or taking or picking up kids from school, adding in another child's dance schedule if she does that, add in side hustles, add in games or practices. And people add so much into their schedules, and there's no time for family, but there's no time for Jesus. You wear yourself ragged, and Jesus just wants to help. But we have to take our box of restlessness. We got to open it up. We got to find what are actually priorities and throw away what is not a priority. In a book, it's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. It's by John Mark Comer, and he says these words: We continue to chase after our desires ad infinitum. The result, a chronic state of restlessness, or worse, angst, anger, anxiety, disillusionment, depression, all of which lead to a life of hurry, a life of busyness, overload, shopping, materialism, careerism, a life of more, which in turn makes us even more restless. And the cycle spirals out of control. So what he's saying here is that the side effects of restlessness, the side effects of hurry, are angst. I got to do something. I got to do something. There's anger. I'm frustrated because I'm not doing something. Anxiety, fearing about the future, disillusionment, depression. Those are the side effects of what we live. But the cause of restlessness, the cause of hurry, is that we are too busy. We overload ourselves with things we don't even have to do. Shopping causes us to be focused on materialism, which pushes us to make more money so that we further our career, so that we have a life of more and more things. And it just becomes this vicious cycle that you can't get out of. But like in our last series, Money Matters, learning to be content with what we have. Not just money, but being content with where we are in life. When you get rid of the cause, the side effects go away. When you get rid of the cause, when you get rid of the hurry, when you get rid of all these things, you're not going to be as angry. You're not going to be as anxious. You're not going to be as depressed. To stop feeling in a rush, to stop running around, we got to get rid of the causes. Being busy doesn't make you productive. Just because you're doing something doesn't mean you're getting anything done. Just because you're doing something doesn't mean that you're getting anything done. Just because you have things to do, that doesn't mean that you're doing things that are worthwhile. It may be even good things that you're doing. But here's what God wants for your life. He wants the best. He doesn't want average. He wants to give us a better way of living. So the first thing we have to do is to stop doing good things and focus on the best things. To stop being busy, we have to start saying no. We have to start saying no. And there's an author, Bob Goff. He's the author of Love Does. He quits one thing per week. He quits one thing per week. And he never runs out of things to say no to. There will always be something that wants your attention. There's always going to be something that wants your time. You have to start saying no so that you have margin to say yes to the most important things. Saying no to social media so you have time to read the Bible and hear from God. You say no to that morning coffee hangout so you can say yes to discipling someone, so you can mentor them through their walk with Christ. You've been through life. You've been through the Christian life. You get to help somebody else, but that only happens when you say no to other things. You can say no to hours of watching TV, and you can say yes to working out. Say no to sleeping in on Sunday. Say yes so that you can spend time in communion with others, that you can have community and fellowship. You can say no to getting fast food so you can say yes to blessing someone by paying for their gas. There are more important things than being busy. Busy doesn't get you to heaven. Productivity for the sake of looking productive doesn't help other people to get to heaven either. We're going to be in John chapter 11 today. And you've probably heard the end of the story, but we're going to focus on the beginning of the story. It's when Lazarus dies. We're going to read this, John chapter 11. It says, "Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, 'Lord, the one you love is sick.' When he heard this, Jesus said, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, that God's Son may be glorified through it." Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. And when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to his disciple, "Let us go back to Judea." "But Rabbi," they said, "a short while ago the Jews tried to stone you there, and yet you're going back?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light." After he said this, he went on to tell them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to wake him up." His disciples replied, "Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better." Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought he meant natural sleep, just going to bed. So then he told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." And this is how we know how long this took. In verse 3, it says, "So the sisters sent word to Jesus." Where they were was about 15 miles away. They're about 15 miles away. It was about a 1-day travel. Then after they heard that, Jesus stayed where he was for 2 more days. And then he said, "Let us go back to Judea," 1-day travel. And in verse 17, it says, "On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus has already been in the tomb for 4 days." Basically, he probably died right after the messenger left to go tell Jesus that Lazarus was sick. But they didn't have cell phones to call, "Hey, when you get there, make sure you tell Jesus that Lazarus is dead." So there was 1-day travel for the messenger to come to Jesus. Jesus waited for 2 days. Then when he went to go wake up Lazarus from death, Jesus didn't hurry. Jesus didn't hurry. Again, it was about 15 miles each way between Bethany and where Jesus was in Judea. At about an average pace of 2.5 miles an hour, which is about an average walking speed, it would take 6 hours to walk. Don't forget eating, using the bathroom, going to a rest stop, checking out the sights. No. It would probably take about 9 or 10 hours. And he's saying that there's 12 hours of daylight. So in verse 21, Martha said to Jesus, "If you had been here, my brother would have not died." We all ask these questions. We all tell God these things. We're telling God to hurry. We're telling God to come quickly. Hurry before something happens, God. I have this bill coming up. I have this house payment that is coming up. My electricity is going to be turned off. Hurry, Jesus. We live a life of hurry, and we expect Jesus to take the same way that we do. And then when Jesus doesn't hurry, we get frustrated. He doesn't run places. Jesus walked with purpose. He didn't run, he walked. It is in knowing your purpose when you don't have to hurry, because hurry is the enemy. What if Jesus ran to Bethany that first day he heard about Lazarus, and he ran there and he healed him before he died? That wouldn't have been much of a miracle. People would say, "Oh, I've seen that before. Do a new trick, Jesus." And Jesus was telling people that miracles don't happen in hurry. I'm going to show you that your purpose is greater than your hurry. Your purpose is greater than your hurry. Your life on earth is more important than just getting things done. Your life is more important than being productive. Your life is more than the busyness that you put yourself through. And Martha says this. She says, "But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask." That was an act of faith. It was a statement of faith. Even God, you weren't here, but I know that God will give you whatever you ask, even though I don't understand, I want you to hurry. I wanted you to be here, but you took your time, but I know that God will do whatever you ask him to do. And we know the end of the story. Lazarus is raised, but we're going to go to another story. In Matthew chapter 9, Jesus was willing to be interrupted. In Matthew chapter 9, verse 18, it says, while he was saying this, a synagogue leader came and knelt before him and said, my daughter has just died, but come and put your hand on her and she will live. Jesus got up and went with him, and so did his disciples. Just then a woman who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak. She said to herself, if I only touch his cloak, I will be healed. Jesus turned and saw her. Take heart, daughter, he said. Your faith has healed you. And the woman was healed at that moment. So the synagogue leader's daughter came and said, my daughter has just died. And so Jesus gets up to go heal his daughter. And then there's this interruption. And then he goes and he goes and heals the leader's daughter after. What if Jesus didn't stop? Said, I have to raise this girl from the dead. I don't have time for this other woman. Don't touch me. I'm in a hurry. I got to do all these things. I'm running. I got to help this girl. This woman would have not been healed. We wouldn't see that the faith of that woman was amazing. We wouldn't see this woman see healing in her life. We wouldn't see this take place. It's probably a short interruption, maybe took just a minute or so, probably less than that. But this short interruption changed the trajectory of this bleeding woman's life because she couldn't go to the temple because she was considered unclean. For 12 years, she was not able to go to the temple because she was unclean, because the bleeding never stopped until Jesus was interruptible. The bleeding didn't stop until Jesus was interruptible. Imagine not being able to go to church for 12 years because of whatever. It's like, I can't go to church. I can't go there. But then Jesus came and healed her, and she was able to go. It was a short interruption in the Bible, and then it just goes back to the story. 3 quick verses, a short interruption in the Bible, and it goes back to the story. And we tend to focus on the task at hand rather than the purpose that God has for us. Your purpose is greater than the task that you are working on. What if you don't get to work on time, but someone is saved because you took time to share Jesus with them? What if instead of working on a project and someone calls, you take that call because it could be what God needed to tell you? Life's interruptions can become an avenue for God's voice to speak to you. So take the interruptions as they come, because it might just be a God-ordained moment. It first takes getting over the hurry and the busyness and making time that can be interrupted, where you have margin for interruptions. But if you're running around, every single minute of your day is filled, you're never going to have time for interruptions. But you build in extra time. And the rest of the quote from that book, the ruthless elimination of hurry, is this. He says, ultimately, nothing in this life, apart from God, can satisfy our desires. Now imagine a box filled with all of your hurry, filled with all of the rush that you have, all of the things you have to do this week. You take it and you gather those things and you put them in a different box and you throw it away. You ask God for a new box, a new way of thinking, a new way of living. And you add into this new box that Jesus gives you, and you add what Jesus says and what he did into that box. And then keep it in a place where you can see it. Keep it in a place where you can think about it. Your life will thank you. Your health will thank you. Our bodies are not meant to go 16 hours a day, just keep going and going and going, never stopping for rest, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Your body is not made to do it. Jesus didn't run. He didn't rush, but he was always present in the moment that he was in. We don't have to be restless anymore, but we can have peace. Psalm 23 in the Message version. It says, God, my shepherd, I don't need a thing. You have laid me down in lush meadows. You find me quiet pools to drink from. True to your word, you let me catch my breath and send me in the right direction. And it goes on to say, I'm back home in the house of God for the rest of my life. We can live unhurried. We can live the unhurried life. We can live interruptible. What you can do is just take a breath. Enjoy the unhurried life. I've noticed in the past couple days as I have written this sermon, I've noticed that when I'm out in public, I'm not as frustrated. I'm not trying to get somewhere. I'm just there. I can't change the circumstances. And somebody asked me, I had two things. I went to Ollie's. I had two small things, and she had a cart full of things. She said, you can go ahead. And I feel like God was testing me, saying, she said, you can go ahead. And I was like, you know what? I'm not in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry. I can just stand behind you, even though you have a ton of stuff, and I can just sit here. I can stand here and be present. And that's how Jesus wants us to live. That you can take a breath, your heart rate's going to come down, your blood pressure is going to come down, and you can enjoy the unhurried